What I like to do at these events is to have each of the panelists talk a little bit about what they do and how they got to where they are today. So just a brief story about, I know some of you went to Santa Barbara City College, so they can totally relate to some of you who are here, and then talk a little bit about what they actually do in their job. And then I'm going to go ahead after that, ask them some questions, then we'll have some time for Q&A from all of you. We'll close the session, and whoever can stay for a little bit might be able to take some one-on-one questions afterwards. Okay? So let's begin. I'm going to join them here at the table.
My name's Justine. I work at Cottage. I'm an interventional radiology technologist. I graduated the City College program in 2004. Got a job right out of school as a CAT scan tech and did that for 3 years at Cottage, and then transitioned into interventional radiology and have been there ever since.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. I graduated from Santa Barbara City College in the program here in 2001 and got a job at Gallardo Valley Cottage Hospital right off the bat. And it was fun working there for a couple of years because you get to do a little bit of everything because it's a small hospital, so I got to do a little bit of CT, surgery, regular x-ray, fluoroscopy. And then I transferred downtown to Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital and did CT there solely for another 3 years. And I got to train Justine in CT, so that was fun. That's how we met. And after that, I moved up to Santa Maria, and I started working at an outpatient center. I was the lead CT tech there and did a little bit of x-ray, and then an opening in MRI came out. So I started cross-training in MRI, and I did MRI for about 8 years before I started teaching. So I guess I've done quite a bit in the field, but I guess it's one of the things that appealed to me because I kind of get bored easily. So it's been a good career path for me because I've gotten to do different things and learn new things throughout the career. And so when I saw the opportunity to teach at City College, I was like, oh, well, that might be kind of cool. And lo and behold, they gave me a chance. So I'm here.
So Trudy, are you currently teaching and doing radiology work?
No, I realized that teaching actually does take a lot of time, and there's a lot of prep and grading and all of that stuff. So I started out as per diem, so I was working a little bit of part-time and then decided to have a little bit of a life. So I let go of that and just started teaching.
Thank you.
I graduated in June of 1995 out of the Santa Barbara Radiology program. Right away the next day, on June 16th, I got hired at Gallardo Valley. Chuck Scolari hired me. He was a radiology manager at Gallardo Valley at the time. And I got into radiology, special procedures, and then I went to San Ynez to go drop off some films. And they said, why haven't you ever applied here? I didn't know you were hiring. So before you know it, within a month, I transferred out to San Ynez. And it's a small little hospital, and they gave me the opportunity to open my mind a little bit, use equipment a little bit different. I'm very mechanically inclined, so I got into X-ray, fixing the equipment, to CT, setting up protocols, to fixing the air conditioner units. I also work in facilities as well. And I got into MRI as well. So, it's a wonderful field if you're wanting to go into it. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I do, a little bit of everything. And so this is Nathan, he's my boss.
Don't let this guy lie to you. This guy can fix anything. My name is Nathan Hall. I'm the radiology manager at Santa Ynez. I started my X-ray career, it'll be 18 years in July. So I went through the Army X-ray program, and when I graduated, I went back home to Iowa and worked for 3 years. And then I traveled for 3 years as an X-ray CT tech. And then I settled down in Columbia, Missouri, and got my bachelor's degree. From there, I took my first management position in the Panhandle of Oklahoma. I spent about 4 years there, and then moved to Arizona for about 2.5 years, and I ended up here. So I do some X-ray and CT. I liked MR best, but time doesn't typically allow. So,
My name's Carolyn. I graduated with Trudy, 2001. Seems like eons ago. And got a job right at Sansum. I've been there ever since. I went in there, did x-ray quite a few years, then I went straight, got my certification in mammos, did mammos for I don't know, quite a while. Then I was able to go into CAT scan, did that I think for about 5-6 years, and then I went into MRI. I think I've done that now for about 7, 8 maybe. I'm able to kind of go back and forth to CT and MRI if I am needed to, but I'm mostly full-time MRI. But I keep my licenses active for everything if they ever need me to do something.
My next question is, for those in the audience who don't know, and also including myself a little bit, I think, is what's the difference between a radiologist and a radiologic technologist? And then what's the difference between a technician and a technologist? Would anybody like to answer that?
the radiologist has typically 16 years of schooling to be able to do what they do. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and then 2 years of, if they wanted to specialize in like musculoskeletal, breast imaging, body imaging. So I guess the difference between technologist and technician.
I tend to think of it as like the people who work on the machines versus the people who work with the machines. So a technician, even though we really don't call them technicians, I'm more familiar with the term field engineer. So they come out and work on the X-ray machines, the CT scanners, the MRI scanners, versus the technologist would be us. We work with the technology, taking the images.
What sort of education do you need to be doing your work? Was it just getting something from Santa Barbara City College, or have you been doing more education, and maybe speak to the licensing as well? Would you like to start, Justine?
Yeah, I did all my undergrad stuff that the program requires, and then the program here. And then on-the-job training, and then once you finish school, and you have to keep your license up to date, and you have to keep learning, which is really fun, actually. Things are constantly changing. New techniques are being developed. So every year you have to do what are CEUs, and so you learn through doing those as well. And so you're constantly learning and finding out new things.
The CEUs that she mentioned, those are continuing education units. So we have to do 24 every 2 years. They're pretty easy to access. They're everywhere, so you can basically study whatever you want in order to keep that going. On-the-job training, and then to take your certification, so you get out of SBCC, you're ready to take your certification exam in X-ray, radiography. To go into CT or MRI and get your license in that, then you have to, for the most part, people study independently. The regulations are starting to get a little bit more strict, where they are requiring a little bit of structured education prior to taking your CT exam. But for the most part, you study on your own and you take the test. Pass or fail, and hopefully get your license.
Anybody else have some input?
I think Trudy covered it.
All right, good job, you guys. Would you please share with our students here what the best character traits are, or what are the most important character traits that a person might need to do well in the type of work that you do? And Carolyn, let's start with you.
I would say you probably have to be very flexible, because for one, you have to be very flexible in what sort of shifts you're going to take. You have to be very flexible because you're going to get all different types of patients coming your way. You kind of have to learn how to work with them, and you have to be very flexible and patient with people you work with. So you kind of have 3 different things that you're up against when it comes to that. So I would say probably the best attribute you can have is probably flexibility with everything.
Thank you.
Patience.
I would say, to compound on that, was also intelligence. So, but a large part of being a tech is working well with others. So almost everybody treats the patients well. It's how you treat your coworkers, I think, that is how you're judged most often. So a lot of disputes that have been resolved have stemmed from that. So I guess if you have a friendly, outgoing nature, I think it helps. So
Sounds like some good attributes you could add to your resume. Team player, friendly.
I agree.
Yeah. What about you, Rick?
You know, I've having that team orientation, that sense of oh geez, how do I want to put it? The people skills. You got to have those people skills to be able to communicate with people. You're going to be meeting people, all ages, all cultures, and there's a sense of respect that we all need to have among each other. And half the job is communications with your staff and with patients you're going to have, and that's when it comes into play. But yeah, that's one of the big ones, I think.
Communication, people skills sounds very, very important. What about you, Trudy?
I just want to go back to what Rick talked about with mechanically minded, because we do work a lot with the technology, the computer software systems, the x-ray machines. So it's being able to be adaptable to the patient, as well as understanding the equipment and how to get done what you need for the picture.
I would probably say being compassionate and being a multitasker is huge. You could be going in one direction and have your day totally planned out, and a trauma walks in the door and everything gets turned upside down. You have to rethink everything you thought and be okay with it, and roll with it, and be able to just kind of keep the day going, and, you know, keep patients happy.
Keep your coworkers happy.
Keep your coworkers happy, yes.
Very good.
And being compassionate for people in the position they're in.
Which leads me to, what do you like about your job and what do you not like about your job? Justine. Oh wait, somebody's boss is here. Sorry.
Not my boss.
You can pass if you want.
What do I like about my job? Oh goodness, there are so many things. I love that no day is ever the same. I think I've done something different every single day of my job since I started almost 15 years ago. You never see it. You know, we'll do the same of one exam, and it's like, oh, it's just a PICC line. I've done thousands of PICC lines, but no PICC lines are ever the same. And so that's kind of fun, keeps you on your toes. I love being able to learn. The way that procedures are being done these days, a lot more is going to interventional radiology, so fortunate that I'm learning all these new procedures, and we're starting a new program at Cottage soon that I'll be able to even learn more about, so that's exciting. Yeah.
What do you not like about it?
Well, yeah, what do you not like about it? Are you going to share?
I like everything about my job.
That's awesome.
I don't know. What do I not like about my job? Well, I didn't become a nurse because I didn't necessarily want to always help people change their, I didn't want to constantly be changing bedpans and Foleys and all that kind of stuff. So when that part of my job happens, it's a little bit of a bummer every now and then, and it does happen. Just the other night, I had one single patient, pee, poop, and vomit. And I was like, are you serious? But that's probably good for the next 6 months, so,
I'm going to ask you pretty soon what's one of the most memorable or challenging work situations you've had, so hold that thought. Okay. Okay, Trudy?
I think I mentioned kind of at the beginning of it, because I liked the idea that I could do different things throughout my career and not kind of be stuck doing one thing and waiting for the next. But I guess for me, it all stems back to anatomy. I really loved the anatomy class that I took here, and that's kind of built from there. I think it's very cool to be able to look inside somebody's body. And like Justine was saying, another chest x-ray, another hip x-ray, another abdomen pelvis CT, but everybody's a little bit different. You never know really what's going to happen with that next exam. So it does keep the days from being too monotonous. And now that I'm teaching, it's fun working with the students. I kind of live vicariously through them. You know, they get to tell me their stories, and they help me remember to keep an eye on the broader picture, because I have things in my mind, like I'm expecting a certain answer, and they come up with something totally different, and I'm like, oh, well, that's not wrong. Okay, you know, well, we can look at it that way. So teaching is very interesting to me. I don't like grading. That's what I can say about that right now. But you're thinking, well, why do you assign anything? Well, I have to. So, other than that, it's been a good career for me all the way through. So.
Yeah, for me, it's I've got to say it's always something new every day. Of course, you always learn something every day. You never stop learning. I too enjoy having kids. I should say students. I coordinate students as well, and just to see them grow and see them mature and understand the field that I'm in and understand the equipment, to me it's fascinating. I really enjoy seeing them grow and be somebody just like me or even better. That's our goal. What I don't like, that's a hard question. I don't think there's anything I don't like about my job. I really enjoy what I do. Well, yeah, ordering supplies, that too. Yeah, sometimes, you know, like, again, we're a small little hospital. I also order supplies, and there's some things I can't, find. I got to call here or call there. But yeah, it's fun, though. It really is.
I think the best part of my job is patient care. So I still have that ability, and I really never want to lose that. The hardest part, or the part I guess I dislike, is disputes between employees. So I think that's probably the hardest part of my job. So, and between everyone, I get an education, I guess, every time. So no two situations are ever the same. So.
So as a radiology manager, right, what does your day look like?
Honestly, it's never the same. Like, I have plans every day I go in, and then
You
it
help
changes.
patients, but you also are managing
I
staff.
am.
It's a combo?
It is. I got back from 2 days off last week, Thursday and Friday, and I'm still digging out of emails. So
That's the management piece.
it is.
Well, and I started visiting up there at the hospital, and I didn't know he was the manager for the longest time because he was always in scrubs. So
That's true.
and he was always on the floor, so yeah. I'm like, oh, that office, that's where he...
Yeah.
Carolyn?
What do I like about my job? Again, it's very, very busy. It's constant. MRIs there's never, ever a moment free. Just like today, I think there's 2 people that canceled, and within 5 minutes, those spots were filled. I like that we're always going, we're always doing stuff. There's always something new. There's always little challenges. Every time I put someone through our threshold, you have to be very aware what they have, if they have anything in them. So you're constantly scanning, you're constantly doing it, and you're basically, I don't know if this is the right word to describe it, but you're awake, you're aware, you're present with them. Doing MRIs in general can be sleepy, you just kind of do it, and it can be very challenging at the same time, depending on what kind of scans I'm doing. The part I don't like necessarily about MRI is the patients. There are some
wow.
who are great. I know, that's probably the wrong answer for my job. But then there are some that are very claustrophobic. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had an MRI. It's very long, small tube. And so you have to kind of do a lot of psychology with them. You have to get them through it because they need this exam, and you have to try and figure out, how am I going to do this? This patient is so scared. Or if they're not scared, they're super needy and they need 5 pillows and 2 blankets and a cushion here. And so you're just kind of trying to get them through it.
And
so
then they have to go pee.
Yes, in the middle of the test. No. So that's just the challenge of whatever. It is what it is. But that can wear on you if you're running late and somehow someone decides they need to use the restroom. So yeah, it's fine, but it's wearing.
What about radiation safety? You say you've been working with MRIs and obviously different machines. And so, Carolyn, can you start? What would you say to students who are concerned about that?
Well, for radiation, mine's pretty easy because there's no radiation in MRI. So we don't necessarily have to worry about that at all, but you do have to worry about certain implants, certain things can't go into MRI. So it can be extremely dangerous in that aspect. But with radiation and all that, it's a completely different imaging language. We don't use that, we use magnetic resonance. So people can go in with other people to help them through it if they need that. So there's other safety concerns, but no radiation.
What are the other safety concerns? I mean, are you talking about the implants?
Well, just,
Yeah.
cardiac pacemakers, aneurysm clips, you have to really kind of dig if they've had something in them. They're like, I don't know what it is, but I had it back in the 70s, and you're like, so then you have to do a lot of investigative work, and usually we don't even let them in if they don't have any sort, well, we don't let them in if they don't have any sort of card saying, but yeah, you have to be very careful what you take in and what kind of human you let in, so, but no radiation, so there's that.
Would one of you respond to what about radiation safety? What would you say to students concerned about that, those of you who are not doing MRIs?
Protect yourself. I probably out of the group here get the most radiation.
Combined.
Combined. I stand in it all day, every day. Some of our cases are really long, 4 and 5 hours, and it's just protecting yourself and wearing your lead and staying, away from the machine. Don't stand at the head of it. Don't, stick your arms in your head and your eyeballs and your gonads under there, and just being aware, and I will honestly say the older I have come in my career, I'm like, if I just need to dash in the room, I'll dash in the room. I'm like, I probably shouldn't do that. But there are so many of us that do that, I know. But it's just protecting yourself, and it's, I work with at least 4 technologists that are in their 60s, and they're perfectly fine. They all had children that were normal, and so
100% there.
Yeah. It's not a concern.
Great
Yeah.
research study.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Nathan, did you have a comment to make about that?
Field is getting safer. So the equipment that we use now is shielded a lot better, puts out less radiation for each exam. For technologists, we're monitored every quarter. And for Ynez, I can't remember the last time anybody's had any dose. So it's monitored. Like if you were pregnant, we would monitor you monthly. So the field for the technologists and for patients is very, very safe. So.
Okay, next question. Do you have any advice for students who are pursuing an education to work in the profession that you're in? Carolyn, would you like to start with that?
Any advice?
Find good study partners.
Yeah, that actually works, yes. That's really good. I don't know, yeah, I mean, you got to make sure this is kind of what you want, because it's not pretty, it's not necessarily fun every day. You have to work for it. But it's a good job. You make great friends there, and you meet interesting people, and you can get to know certain patients, but it's not an easy thing. You don't just get to kind of slide in and get your place and hang out. It's definitely, you got to work for it. You just kind of got to know that this is what you want to do, and if this is what you want to do, you'll go on your ups and downs with it. But find a good study partner is a good one too. That'll help. That'll help.
Better come up with another one, Trudy, before it's your turn. Nathan?
If you want to go into management, take business classes. Originally, I wanted to be a lawyer, but when I realized I wasn't going to finish near the top of my class, I'd make less as a public defender than I would at tech. I decided to stay at tech, but in management, I think having a business background would have helped a lot. So,
Thank you, wonderful. Rick?
I think, what was the question again? Can you repeat that one more time?
Advice for students.
We're looking for advice for students who want to go do what you do.
Oh, okay, all right. If you're going to go into this field, go into it thinking that you're going to come out of it knowing that you're going to go do another modality. You know, nowadays, a lot of places, hospitals, clinics are expanding, and they expect more of us. So when you get out, think about ultrasound, think about CT, think about MRI, special procedures. You know, you're going to be working with doctors, you're going to be working with fellow coworkers, and integrity and character is everything. So honesty is important. You become a photographer, literally. So you got to remember that all these images that you're creating, they're going to have your name on it. So it's nice when doctors come back to you and say, hey, great job, great imaging, because they're going to diagnose this patient with your images that have your initials on it. So, you know, it's important to be good at what you do.
I would say that it's a good career, considering it's only a 2-year program. You end up being in school for a little bit longer than that because you've got to get all the undergraduate. But considering the money that you make coming out of a 2-year program, that's the perks of it. But also, I want to remind everybody that, you know, I would like all of my students to get A's in anatomy. You know, anatomy and physiology. That's really what you're going to be dealing with every single day. Not only the patients, but it's the anatomy, and the more that you know about that, the better that you'll do. And like Rick said, just be good at your job. You know, there's kind of a joke in radiology that, oh, we're just button pushers, you know, hold your breath, push the button, x-ray comes out. But you learn so much more than that through the program. And I think a lot of students are startled at the fact that they have to know so much. But it's an important thing to learn, you know, when Justine talks about protecting herself during radiation. She mentioned things that I know you guys don't know about, when the fluoro tower and where to stand and what to do. But that's what we teach you in the program as well. So you know how to work with it safely for yourself and for the patients. So
I think I would make sure before going into the program you know what you want out of a job. This job, depending on where you work and what modality you get into, can be really demanding. And make sure you like people. I can't tell you how many technologists I have met that are really just not people persons. And it's kind of a bummer because you're interacting with the public and our community and your coworkers, and it's really important to be a people person and to know what you're really jumping into, working long hours and touching people. Some people are like, oh, I actually have to touch the patient? Yes, you have to touch the patient. That's a thing, you know, and be prepared for that. Decide what you really want out of your career.
So related to that, you were talking about planning to switch modalities. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that, and anybody who wants to respond to talk about what does that really mean and what are some of the different modalities that people do.
well, I'd say that, I mean, there's a lot of different modalities. When people think of an imaging center, you might think about x-ray the most, but there's interventional radiology, and even within interventional radiology, there's all kinds of different specialties in that submodality.
Yeah.
And then MRI, of course, and then CT. CT's involved in some of the interventional studies, though. Biopsies, drainages, some things like that. And then, of course, you've got ultrasound, nuclear medicine. We don't have anybody here that does nuclear medicine to speak to that. Radiation therapy. So that's where you're treating patients who have cancer with radiation. What have I missed? There's so many different venues and opportunities, and only a few of them, like CT and MRI, interventional radiology, you can get on-the-job training, so it's really just kind of waiting for an opportunity to get into that spot. Nuclear medicine, ultrasound, and radiation therapy all require more schooling. But that's not necessarily a bad thing either, if that's really what you love to do. I've got a coworker who, she was an x-ray tech and a CT tech, I trained her in MRI, and now she's in the ultrasound program.
What is an interventional?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do procedures on people. So somebody like Carolyn or Trudy may do a CAT scan or MRI and say a patient has hydronephrosis, so like an enlarged kidney because they have a kidney stone. So then they call us, and we go in and pop a tube into the back of the kidney that allows the kidney to drain to a bag externally so that you're not going to get sick and have infection and lose your kidney eventually. So we do all kinds of procedures though, and especially here at Cottage, we do neurointerventional radiology. So we do brain aneurysms and acute stroke treatment, AVMs, and then we do regular interventional radiology. So we do line placements for people who need long-term IV access for antibiotics, cancer therapy, chemotherapy, dialysis. We put in nephrostomies for people with kidney stones. We work if there's a blockage in an artery, we'll open it. Essentially, we're like plumbers. If it's blocked, we'll open it. If it's closed and it's supposed to be open, then, we just kind of do it all.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So.
Can you switch modalities easily while you're working, or do you have to go back? You said you have to go back to school for some things, or how does that work?
Some
As far
things-
as like practical-wise.
Yeah, so there's a few modalities like ultrasound, nuc med, and radiation therapy that you have to go back to school for, so more schooling is involved. But CT and MRI, as long as the management's willing to cross-train you and you've proven yourself to be teachable and a good worker, then they'll start bringing you in. Like Carolyn mentioned, she kind of bounces back and forth between CT and MRI sometimes, and I did a little bit. I still got nervous, though, after doing MRI for like 6 years, and then they're like, oh, hey, why don't you come, we need you to cover an x-ray, and I was like, oh, okay. I think, where's the bike? I think I can remember how to do this. But yeah, and then like Rick was saying, some places you have to kind of do it all.
I don't think I would be in this field if it wasn't for me having an opportunity to be a multi-modality technologist. There was a time that I got to the point that I wanted to get out of the field. I wanted to go back and be a mechanic for Marburg. I used to be an automotive mechanic. And anyways, that's how I got into facilities portion of the hospital. There was a gentleman that was going to get ready to retire. He goes, Rick, you're pretty good at fixing things. I'm all, yeah, let's go up to the roof and let's go look at the air conditioner. I think it's down. So I started learning a lot more things, and for a while I was doing facilities and radiology, part-time. And then finally in radiology I was able to go into more CT, more MRI, more X-ray, and they needed me more in radiology. So yeah, it's definitely fun, but you definitely have to know what you're doing. The train of thought sometimes from going from an MRI to a CT could be difficult at times, but you have to stop, take a time out, and rethink what you're going to do and apply your skills.
That's what differentiates a good tech from a great tech, is the ability to move from one modality to the other. So in one day, Rick can do an X-ray, CT, and an MR. So, and he does it frequently, and that ability is essential at St. Ynez because we don't have enough volume in CT or an MR or an X-ray for one person to be in MR all day. So, but radiology, being an X-ray tech is the primary discipline, and it allows you to go into so many other fields. It allows you to do CT and MR. And I honestly thought you could still do ultrasound, but I guess not. So, but yeah. But as an ultrasound tech, the only other field you can get into is MR. So any radiation producing field, you would have to go back to school for. So.
Carolyn, you said you did mammograms, right, like mammography, and then now you're doing MRIs, is that right? So how did you go from one to the other?
Chance, basically. I did mammos, and there was a chance to go into CT, so I went to CT for a few years. And then, people just kind of retired, moved, that sort of thing, and I was luckily able to go into MRI after I took my CT boards and kind of got settled there, and I was able to train. Sometimes it's just luck and timing. Other times you really have to keep pushing and wanting and to do it. And but I'd wanted to do that for a while, and thankfully my time was just kind of there, and I was able to go in and train it. I mean, I had to train on the scanner for about a year, because MRI's learning all the protocols are insane. And then I had another year to train to take the boards, because there's so much information at MR. So it was a lot of work, but once you're there, you're there. But mostly luck and chance got me into that, so timing.
Nathan, what do you do when your equipment breaks down?
I cry inside a little. Honestly, Cottage is really good about having their equipment in under service contract with the original equipment manufacturer. So anytime something's down, I usually text the service engineer, and then I'll put in a call to either GE, Siemens, Philips, and usually they come out usually the same day. So.
Same with you, Rick?
Or he tries to fix
duct
it.
tape is my best friend.
I thought you were going to say you call Rick. Okay. What is one of the most memorable or challenging work situations you have experienced? Who would like to start?
Recently, we had internet outage for like 6 to 8 hours. And everything radiology does is based on the ability to send our images. So at St. Ynez, we have a radiologist that reads there Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And there just happened to be a day when the radiologist wasn't there. So we were literally just sitting on our hands. We could do the imaging, but we couldn't get it read. So it ended up just restarting a network switch, and everything came back on. But it was 6 to 8 hours that I guess we really appreciated technology. So.
Difficult patients, perhaps? Anybody?
No, they're all good.
For me, it was a MRI patient that he was very, very claustrophobic. He came in and he goes, "Well, you're gonna leave the doors open, right?" No. Well, how am I going to get out? Well, you don't need to. You're going to be in the room. No, I'm not going to go in there with the doors open. Well, we can't do the MRI. And so he was fearful of MRI. He was very claustrophobic. As I was studying his previous exams, I come to realize that there was a reason why he needed to have this MRI done. So what I did is I went into the MRI, sat down right next to him while he was having his MRI. I called a fellow coworker and I said, "Hey, can I get your help?" So I told him the plan of action, and I put on some earplugs and I sat right next to him, and the gentleman had his MRI, and after when we came out, he was very, very thankful, and I was just glad he got his MRI. Those little moments, sometimes you look back at your life and say, hey, what will somebody be willing to do for you, And when it comes to patients, I don't think that there's nothing we won't do for our patients. Because someday it's going to be us. Someday it's going to be us, old, falling apart. But yeah, that was a wonderful moment in my time in life. I really enjoyed.
That was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can think of a couple. I mean, there's always the issues of claustrophobia and MRI. There was one patient, it's just, I don't know whether I should say it's funny, but I guess that's kind of how we look back at these things. In MRI, they're given a bulb, a little panic button, right? So they're in the scanner because the door is closed, vacuum sealed, so it's basically locked. And you can listen to them through a microphone, but when the noise of the MRI is going on, you can't converse with them because all you hear is the MRI machine. So they have that panic button that they can hit. So the panic button went off, which sets off an alarm where we sit. We jump up, and me and my other coworker, we got the door open. By the time we got the door open, the patient was already off and out of the scanner and headed towards the door. She'd crawled out of the MRI scanner. And so that was Okay, a little adrenaline bolster. But I've had a few, those patients that you make their day, that's kind of a good thing. Like a gentleman that came in and he was just mad. He was mad at the front office, he was mad at insurance, and just listening to him and saying, okay, well, what can we do to get your exam done? And he was a larger man, and he'd been scheduled in the closed MRI scanner as opposed to the open. The open scanner accommodates larger people, and I just remember him saying, that scanner's made, the little one, the closed MRI, that scanner's made for children and females. So we got things situated, and yeah, he went out to his car and brought me back a box of chocolates and gave me a hug, and he was so happy. So it's just, big things for them, and we were able to accommodate it, and everybody's happy. He got his exam. Another one that sticks out in my mind, though, is a patient who had a small bowel obstruction. So they're constipated, nothing's going out the way that it's supposed to, and they also had a intestinal bleed, so there was internal bleeding, and the patient threw up in the scanner. I'm swallowing hard because it's one of the worst smells that literally I've ever, and we didn't call facilities. We got in there and wiped it all up and cleaned it up before the next patient got in, and you appreciate your coworkers that are willing to help you out in those moments. Yeah, there's always kind of fun things like that, though. Like, the guy that always claims to be on the side that we roll towards when the patient's puking. Yeah, entertainment. You never have a dull, they'll always have something to talk about at the dinner table.
Or not.
Or not. Maybe not that one.
Carolyn, do you have something to share?
I don't have anything in particular or any specific tough moment, but I tend to find that difficult times during the days when I have a patient long study and we have to give them contrast, which is shot in their arm, basically in a vessel, and we have to push through a contrast agent. And a lot of times they don't come in with great, huge veins, and you have a small amount of time to do your test. And so there are times where I try to say I'm only going to poke you 3 times, but if I'm by myself, I think I've sadly poked a patient probably about, I think it was 8 times before I finally found a tiny little vessel. And then when there's no one else to do it, what are you going to do? I got the contrast, but it was a huge, challenging moment. But you had to do it. They needed it. They were sick, and hence why they had barely any vessels. But those tend to be my very challenging moments when I have no other choice. I have to do it, and you have to find it. And they were thankfully they were okay with me poking them 8 times. I don't know why, but.
I thought my 5 was high.
I know. I usually do a 3 maximum and give it to someone else, but there was no someone else, so. Yeah.
We're just like, woohoo, we got it.
Yeah. Yay, high five. Don't move.
Justine.
Oh, goodness. I think some of my challenging moments are, at our hospital, we do a lot of outpatients as well as inpatients. And some of our challenging moments come when those two worlds collide and outpatients who are sitting, waiting for their scheduled procedure don't understand that your day has totally exploded, and you have sick patient after sick patient after sick patient walking in that you have to take care of that are admitted into the hospital, and they walked in off the street and they're demanding to be, to have their procedure done. So those moments are challenging, because you have to put on your best manager face and go out there and politely explain that you are having your procedure done in a hospital, and if the tables were turned, that, we would be putting highest priority to them if they were critically ill, and that you understand, and those times were always very challenging for me.
So besides the box of chocolates, have you been yelled at?
Oh, goodness.
Every day.
I've honestly been yelled at, I've been spit at, I've been bitten, I've been hit, I've been scratched. Yes, so Yeah.
And y'all want to join the profession?
Yeah.
Just her coworkers.
Yeah, right.
That's just your
That's just the
coworkers.
coworkers. No. Yeah. Yeah, working in a busy hospital with neuro patients and stuff that aren't always in their right mind, people don't always know what they're doing and can be very unpredictable. Got to have your guard up all the time.
I'd like to take a deeper dive into, Nathan, you mentioned you did some travel through your work. Can you explain what that is and what you liked or didn't like about it, advantages, disadvantages?
When a hospital is short, a lot of times they'll hire a temporary tech for a minimum of 13-week contract. And honestly, it was a great learning experience because you go into a new place, you learn a new system within a week, and you're flying solo. So that was very exciting. But at the time, the work was sporadic. Like right now, the travel for X-ray, CT, MR techs is really high. The demand is high. So getting a couple of years experience under your belt and traveling, I think, is a great opportunity for any technologist.
How does somebody find a travel job?
They pretty much find you right now. So I would say there's at least 2 to 3 emails daily sent to my email from previous travel assignments, looking to see if I wanted to travel. So,
If somebody were just starting out, what would they do?
they'll accept new grads, but I think at least getting a year under your belt, I think, would help.
What are some of the places that you went to?
New York, Illinois, South Carolina, Colorado, Missouri, Iowa. I think that's it. So,
What about job opportunities in general in the Santa Barbara area? Say if students here want to stay in the area, what does the outlook look like from your perspective? And what about the pay? Can they make enough to stay here in Santa Barbara or in the vicinity?
do you want to take that one?
I was like, well, that's the golden question right there.
The market is tough here right now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of techs and not a lot of jobs right now. So I think the willingness to move will ensure a job, but and patience. So when you're a student at a clinical site, you want to impress the staff. Because for Cottage, we use a shared governance system, and the staff essentially determines whether you get hired or not. So it's a 6-month job interview. So
We've got a student right now, I mean, they live down south in the Ventura County area, and they're getting ready to graduate, and they're considering moving up to San Luis Obispo, up north, just because jobs up there are a little bit more open than in Santa Barbara, Ventura area right now. I mean, it's just kind of, like Carolyn was saying, kind of time and chance. It's who's retiring, is anybody leaving the area? My husband and I lived down here, both had good jobs, but when we had our first child, it was like, well, can we afford a home in Santa Barbara? So that's why we ended up moving up north. But yeah, Carolyn and I have a friend that she traveled right out of the program, and she went East Coast. She went all over the place before she found a place that's kind of what's neat about traveling too. You get to work there for 13 weeks, and then potentially if they have that opening and they can hire you on full time if you like it and they like you, that kind of a thing. So if you're young and single, that's a good gig.
Any other comments related to that?
Just if you go into the field, just think of it as you're going to move out of the area. Your job's going to take you elsewhere. Just like if you want to go engineering, you got to move out of the area. Well, you can't stay in Solvang for the rest of your life. Yeah, you got to move out to larger cities to follow your career path. Same thing applies to radiology. I had a student that moved to Salinas, great paying job, but she moved from Lompoc. There's jobs out there, but you guys are going to have to move out of the area. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. But that's true for many occupations in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's
and being
true.
able to afford to live here. So just wanted to get an idea for your area. Trudy, can you explain the wait and the fastest way to get into the radiology program here at Santa Barbara City College?
I can't explain the wait, and there's really not a fast track. Currently, our list goes out to 2021.
There was no waiting list when I got on the program. There was no such thing.
So there's an opening, a window every year between January and June where you can apply to the program. And then for that second half of the year, we don't take any applications. The main thing that I tell my students is that you have to have anatomy and physiology. Those two classes, you got to get out of the way right away, get those done. And then you have to be eligible to take the entry-level math and English classes. As long as you're eligible, you don't have to have them taken, you just have to have anatomy and physiology, and then you can get on the wait list. And then while you're on the wait list, take your math, take your English, take your history, take all your undergrad classes, medical terminology, while you're on the wait list. And then that way, by the time you get that stuff done, your wait list is up. Take the RT 100 class, which is, students are in this room right now for that class. And you never know. It's a long list of people, but what happens is you'll have a student that signs up for nursing and radiology, and they'll just take whatever comes first. So say nursing opens up and they get into the nursing program, so they drop off of the radiology list. Some people, life happens and they'll say, no, I can't start this semester or this year, so I need to defer. So you were farther down on the list, but this person passed up their opportunity this year, so they'll call down the list. So we always have 35 students that come in to orientation every year, and then we'll have about 5 alternates that also attend orientation, just because out of that 35, we're still anticipating that somebody may have to defer or might not be able to start that summer. So, and typically, at least 2 or 3 of the alternates get in as well. So it's a very dynamic wait list. So you may get a date of 2020 or 2021, and it's not set in stone that that's the year. It could be sooner than that.
You have to be patient.
Yeah, some people will go and travel. Some people save money, do things like that.
Yeah.
Some people get a bachelor's in the meantime. You could do that too.
Are there things that students can do that can enhance their career while they're waiting? You mentioned academics to do, but are there other things that they can do to make themselves more employable after they are through with the program?
I always encourage them to get a job in the hospital, or something in the medical field, whether you're working in the office and scheduling, because that gets you familiar with the terminology and what kind of exams they do, or even a transporter in the hospital. Transporters see a lot in the hospital, so you'll get an idea of whether that's, whether you're going to like that area.
Any of you want to respond to that question?
We have a technologist that he started as a janitor in our hospital. From a janitor, he went to patient care tech. From patient care tech to a patient care tech in the ER to entering the radiology program. There's always room. There's always that opportunity. But of course, once you get in, it's always good to open your horizons and see what other things you could do. But yeah, it's number.
Anybody else? Preparing?
Being bilingual is always helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Very hard to communicate to patients who don't speak English when they're sick and you're trying to tell them something and they're scared and you're like, I don't know. So learning another language is super helpful.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
You can do that in a couple of years.
Yep, we have applicants for jobs and we're like, oh, you speak another language? Mhm.
How to bump to the top.
Yeah, yep.
At this time, I'd like to open it up to students to ask questions. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat the question so everybody can hear it. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll take them. Bachelor's degree or associate's degree? which do you think would be better, or is there a better? Who would like to answer that?
I think that there's still a lot of opportunities for technologists who have just an associate's degree. But windows and doors are always going to open when you've got the bachelor's degree. I mean,
If you enter management, they usually won't look at your resume unless you have a bachelor's degree. So when I applied for this job, I think I was competing with people that had master's degree at the time. And we're a small community hospital. So that's the way the field is going. So to keep up with your peers, I think you need a bachelor's degree.
Is there one type of bachelor's degree that would be better to get than another that would make you, rise above competitors?
For management, it would probably end up being business. So
there are other bachelor's degrees out there, like health information technology, health management. My bachelor's is just in radiologic sciences, so I just kind of built upon what I already knew.
But don't stop there. Go get your PhD if you can. Why not?
Well, yeah,
There's technologists that started in the field and they became doctors. Why? You guys are young. You guys have the whole world in front of you guys. Don't stop.
that's true. We do know of a radiologist who was a technologist.
Mhm.
She just decided she wanted to go back to school. She's like, I can do that.
That's great. Val, you had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could describe a typical day in the context. Sometimes are there meetings? Is it how many patients you might have? Do you get a list in the morning of what you're going to do? I mean, what does a day look like for a radiology tech or ultrasound or whatever?
Well, CT, ultrasound, MRI, most IR. I mean, those all have a relatively scheduled day. You'll have a list of patients that you can do. But if you're in the hospital, like Justine said, that can be completely thrown off by ER or inpatients that all of a sudden get thrown into the mix. X-ray is walk-in basis. So you could have a full waiting room or an empty waiting room. That's kind of,
a lot of times your outpatient schedule is full, and then ER starts to ramp up at 10 or 11, and then you're sitting here with a full schedule trying to pack in more. And we always do it, so.
Doctors start rounding at about 9, so around 10, orders start floating in, and, yeah.
like in the hospital, the X-ray techs, they'll have a list of inpatients that they have to go do portable exams on. So they, the early techs come in, they know that they're going to go do inpatients. And then they'll have fluoro exams scheduled. And then I know we've talked about MRI, but we were usually so full. I mean, it was like, sometimes you just wanted to call one of the people up in the front office and be like, can you just watch my patient? Because I really have to go to the bathroom because I need a break, because it was just booked so tightly. And if anybody throws you off of your schedule, then it's like that added pressure of, oh, I got to get back on track. I've got somebody who's been waiting out there for 15 minutes. And you feel bad about that. But going back to it's flexibility.
Carolyn, did you have something to respond?
Well, working at the clinic, everything's pretty much scheduled except walk-ins, of course, for x-rays. But Sansum has 3 scanners. We have a mobile truck, we have an inside scanner at one site, and then at our other location downtown by the hospital, we have another scanner. Each of them kind of do different things. Our inside scanner at the location by the 154, we do a lot of breast exams, a lot of hour-long exams. So those are constantly scheduled. Those take up the entire day. I mean, there's other things that we put in there, but each scanner truck does the most. We do the ortho stuff, kind of the heads, the backs, the knees. That usually does about 18 patients a day. Our other scanner inside can do up to 15 usually, and then our downtown site is a lot more neuro stuff, but we do close to 15 there. Most of them are all injections, so that there's not even a thing called a lunch break, really. We just kind of keep going. We get there at 7, last person's usually there by 5:36. So it's all very scheduled.
Have any of you had to work nights? All
Oh,
of
yes.
you?
Lots of nights.
Lots of nights.
Lots of nights.
I get my best work done at night.
And weekends
It's
and holidays?
Weekends and holidays, yes. In our department, we take call. So we will work a normal shift, 7 to 5:30, and then we're on call until 7 a.m. the next morning. And if the work's not done, you stay until it's done, which sometimes for me has been 11 or 12. And then I've gone home and been called back at 3 or 4 and only been home for 3 hours. And yeah, so, and that's happened multiple nights in a row. Sometimes I'll do a whole stretch of call and won't get called in one single night. And then other times, it's like people only come out at night and they just want stuff done at night. It's the weirdest thing. And then when I worked in CT, when I very first started, when I graduated X-ray school, I was covering after Trudy, after Trudy trained me, I was covering for Trudy, and I worked Friday and Saturday graveyards, and I was young, and I wanted a life, and that didn't happen.
But she had money.
But I had money for Sundays. And that's the way it was, and that's the way it is for a lot of new grad X-ray techs. You're given the graveyard shifts, and you just kind of work your way up the schedule. And I think I did that for a good couple of years, and then went to IR and started taking call.
What about you, Rick?
You know, I did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday graveyards for 4 years straight. It was very interesting, and I learned the best within those 4 years. You know, you get out of the school program and you have all these thoughts in your mind. You've been trained by all these technologists from different clinics, different hospitals, and now you're going to apply your skills and you're going to see what you're really made out of. Do you really know what you're doing? And when there's nobody else around and you know you got to do this particular exam, you're on your own. That's when you realize, where am I lacking? What else do I need to learn to make sure I do this right? But it's exciting. It really is.
We're basically talking about work-life balance, right? Family.
It's an adjustment, I would say, especially because I take call for my family and my friends. When you're on call, I can't be within 20 minutes away. I have to be 20 minutes to the hospital. So, my husband's family lives down south, and he's like, let's go down to Ojai. And I'm like, too far, sorry. Even pushing it is going to Carpinteria with the traffic these days, And it's an adjustment. It was an adjustment for him. He was used to sleeping through the night, and then all of a sudden, he's got a phone ring in at 2 a.m. or any random time. And then, you don't get every Christmas with your family, and you don't get Thanksgiving. People are in the hospital, and they're sick, and somebody's got to staff the hospital. So it was an adjustment. I think my mom is a nurse, so they were more used to it. But it's worth it for me, I think, and for my family. They understand.
You get extra pay on holidays?
Yes.
I think
What about the rest of you?
for me, it was good because, even with those exhausting days, you are tired, but at the same time, I was able to just shake it off. To walk out and be like, okay, I'm done with that for the next however many hours. I don't have to go back. The other thing that I liked, so when I had my first child, I was able to change my shift so I could work in the evenings and over graveyards, so we didn't have daycare. So I got to stay home with my baby during the day, and then my husband took care of the kids, 5 nights out of the week. But, you got to have, that has to work within the marriage as well, because, two ships passing in the night? Yeah.
For sure.
So there were days where I did graveyards that I was tired. But that worked for me for about 3 years that I enjoyed that. And then I got hired at the outpatient clinic. So that's a lot different than the hospital. There's no nights, there's no weekends. You get the majority of the holidays off. I clock in, clock out, and I was done. Teaching actually isn't like that at all. I feel like I carry all of my students around in my pocket on my phone. but
24/7?
I still get good breaks, though.
What about you, Rick?
I enjoy my cup of coffee on the way to work. It's waking you up, but on the way home, I enjoy the radio station. It just relaxes me. By the time I get home, I'm ready to do anything. This job is not hard. It really isn't. It's mental exhaustion, I think. When you're in front of a computer constantly, and you're looking at names, anatomy, physiology, your mind's constantly flowing because your exam is going to be based on what the doctors are trying to see, and you need to show that. So by the time you get home, you're like, you don't want to play with another computer again until tomorrow, But as in going on vacation, you have plenty of coworkers that, hey, I'll work for you. You switch your schedules around to make it work. This is a big family you're going to be with, for half your life if you're in the field for that long, So I think everybody works together to make sure people get the time that they want off, and it's cool. Oh, yes.
Work-life balance, we try to be fair at St. Ynez. Nothing's really based on seniority. So as long as everybody feels like everything's unfair, I guess that's a good thing, right? So everybody works holidays, when weekends or nights open up, we try to be fair so that everybody has the opportunity to have, I guess, a good home family life. So.
What about you, Carolyn?
I kind of like Trudy. I feel like once day is done, you can kind of just shut off, and then your other part of your day happens. The only time that I find and know that I'm a little bit more short-tempered is if I have a long day of very needy patients that need everything from me, and I need this, I need that. If I get home and then my children are like that, I feel like there is a time where I'm much shorter with them. So I notice that those days that are harder with more difficult patients, I tend to be a little bit shorter at home, but I can turn it off, and the longer I've been in the field, it's pretty easy. You can they're definitely two different lives. So you don't take your patients home with you.
More questions? Do you work while you're being trained, and what does CT and MRI training on the job look like? Okay.
So typically, you're already being cross-trained at your job. So you're scanning during the day, and then the online training is basically, it's a study packet to help you pass your board. And you just go through, sometimes it's in like online modules, other times it's just a big binder, and you just go through a book like you would any other book, and then study. You'll get that through your job. Mm-hmm.
So
Anybody else wanna
at
respond?
St. Ynez, we have a process. When you graduate X-ray school, we want you to be able to do CT within 3 to 6 months. So let's say you were to graduate this May, and once you pass your national boards and get your state certificate, we'd hire you, and then we would automatically start training you in CT. So you'd be getting paid at the time, but a lot of times we don't have money set aside for training. So your training is done in between patients. So
during your workday, do you do the same thing or different things throughout your day?
At St. Ynez, we're a small little hospital, and there you might be able to do different modalities, and if you have room and you have no patient, come and help the other person. Try to help them get through a CT or an X-ray or a special procedure until your patient comes, and then you go out and do your modality. Being multiple modality looks good in your resume too. So don't think of it as money's everything.
that's what makes the world go round.
Yeah, but that's
It's
it.
not love.
Yeah, we've seen there's some rich folks around here. Some people are just not happy, And yeah, you have the poor person that's just happy as could be. It just goes to show you, But just be good at what you do.
Where I worked, we did, if I was in MRI for that day, I was in MRI. If I was scheduled in CT, I was scheduled in CT. So I think it's just a matter of the facility that you work at.
Yeah, so for nuclear medicine or other modalities, what types of education might you need if for those that have other levels of expertise needed?
Well, I can speak to the ultrasound program. One way to get into it, as Nathan has mentioned, that X-ray is kind of like the primary field. So if you have an X-ray license, you can go into the ultrasound program. But they also accept students who have a bachelor's degree. So you don't have to have an X-ray license. If you have a bachelor's degree, then you can go right into ultrasound. And I'm thinking that Nuke Med is the same way,
It is.
that either a bachelor's or X-ray.
But it was surprising to me, when I was at the University of Missouri, we had people that were doing nuclear medicine school, and they weren't techs. I'm like, why would you not go through X-ray school and then go into nuke med? But these were 4-year nuke med students. So, but in 2011, nuclear medicine kind of took a hit because reimbursements for cardiac studies got a hit, so cardiologists stopped building imaging centers to be able to do stress tests. So there was a huge glut of nuclear medicine techs. And there were all these techs, but not as many jobs. But I think it's picked up some. And nuclear medicine, ultrasound, interventional, those are usually your top 3 payers. So you would expect to make the most money out of those 3. So
So if you're looking for specialized school information, that's another thing the Career Center can help you with, is figuring out or looking at what the other options are, besides I'm sure which Trudy's department can too, the radiology department. But between our 2 areas, we could hopefully get those sorts of questions answered about education and where you might seek those opportunities. I think we need to close up now at 6:30. I would like to give a special round of applause to these wonderful